Hey everyone, it's Roy with Tallneck Tech. Wanted to do an update because it's been a while since I've done this and just kind of talk about where the business is at, what I've been doing, and some of the builds I've been doing for people. So over the past 4 or 5 months, I've done a handful of builds in the Fractal Terra. They all kind of look the same, so I debated whether or not I should post them online. I haven't really uploaded any of that footage. I have it. I may change my mind and upload it at some point. I did a build for someone where it was a Jade Fractal Terra build. It's the build that my site, tallnecktech.com, is most known for. And he wanted this graphics card that had red stickers. I think it was the Power Color 9070. So I ordered some custom stickers and I put them on the graphics card and it looked great. So that was really exciting. I did another build in the Fractal Pop Air Mini that was really cool. It was a build for someone local, and it had a disk drive, which is awesome because physical media is everywhere and it's so cheap now that if you have CDs or DVDs, it's really fun to have a disk drive. And it opens up some doors in terms of if you're someone who dabbles in emulation, a lot of emulators are pretty advanced now, and if you have a disk that's readable by the drive, most of the time you can either dump the disc or load the disc and then play it as if it was a console. I know some emulators allow you to do that. So that's what I've been doing. I've done a handful of repairs, and these have all been repairs for friends and family. And I've noticed that and the intention with this is not to dump on big companies that make computers or people who buy computers from big companies. A lot of these bigger companies, when they do sell computers, the place that they cut costs is the motherboard. And as I've done repairs for people, the first thing I always look at is the motherboard. So I did a repair for a friend. His motherboard shorted out. I think it was one of those Asus ROG computers that has the big RGB strip down the front of it. And I ended up having to replace the motherboard and I think the RAM sticks in that build. And then I repaired another friend's computer who his was custom built, but they didn't use standoffs when they attach the motherboard to the case. So the case shorted itself and destroyed the motherboard. So for any of you building computers at home, make sure that you put in the motherboard standoffs if it's the type of case that doesn't have built-in standoffs. They're these tiny little screws that lift the motherboard off the case, which is usually metal, and metal is conductive. You will short out your motherboard. So that's what I've been doing. I've gotten consistently, a handful of build requests here and there. And some of why I've been hesitant to advertise these last couple months is because things have been a little bit unstable with the tariff situation. And, we get our parts in the United States from China. Everything comes from China. That's not entirely true. Some things come from Taiwan because of TSMC, but you get the point. Everything comes from China, and so long as there are tariffs on China, the price of computers, the price of electronics, it goes up. So, excuse me one sec, Discord was making noise. I forgot that I had that on in the background. So, it's been hard as a small business owner to keep up with how rapidly prices have been changing because I don't have fancy software running in the background on my website tracking the live prices of things. there are ways to code it, but I don't even like using the same distributor every time. I have a couple of places that I purchase parts from, and so I would mostly eyeball it and just kind of eat the cost whenever something would, be a little bit more, a little bit less, because I loved, doing these builds for people, and that it's something I truly do enjoy. That's why I started the business. It's been hard. It's been hard to approximate how much builds will cost. It's very unstable in terms of pricing, especially for graphics cards. I've seen graphics cards go from like $1,000 for a 5070 Ti to like $700 in a week, and it doesn't make any sense. And truthfully, I think a lot of people on the small business side of things are just a little bit tired. I've seen a lot of small businesses kind of shrink a little bit in the past couple months, and that it's not that it's not sustainable in the long term, because this is something that I do passionately, and I love computing, and I'm going to continually invest in it because ultimately it's something I enjoy. But definitely the impact that tariffs have had on pricing stability, which is something that my business definitely depends on, that these parts cost the same thing month over month, or even day to day, is all over the place. And accounting for that in how I do pricing is difficult. So that's been challenging. And I haven't really made any major changes to the website recently because of that. I've had the same builds up, even though I have new things that I'd like to offer. So that said, I just want to talk a little bit about trends I see in the types of computers that get purchased from me, and where I think I'd like to take the site, knowing what people buy and sort of where the zeitgeist is at the moment. So what I see based on the orders that I've been getting is most people want a computer that can handle 1440p or 4K. I think a lot of people buying computers now, they're really, for the most part, they're done with 1080p, and they want to graduate to maybe playing more advanced games, doing more advanced stuff with their computers. I've had people say outright to me, I'm going to use it to play Cyberpunk. I'm going to use it to play Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And that there really are these big games that people are very excited to play. And so the goal is to build something that will allow them to fully enjoy that experience without necessarily breaking the bank. So the tipping point I've seen is more or less, it's about $2,000. That's what most people are comfortable spending. And the problem with that being is that the cost of parts is very erratic, and that a $2,000 build one day could cost $2,600 the next day, and this is just in terms of raw parts. So that's the first thing that I've noticed. The other trend I think that's happening in computing is that there is, I will say, something of a renaissance of, for lack of a better word, like a home entertainment computer, right? So this is like having a computer that's maybe not the most powerful computer out there. It's just nice to look at. Maybe it has some kind of physical media support. Maybe it's just the kind of thing that you'd want to set up in the living room and have it be like a entertainment system that doesn't have to break the bank. So that sits somewhere at around $1,000. There is a super high end, and I really don't cater that much to the super high end on my site for a handful of reasons. One is that at the very high end, the parts aren't all that dependable. I made a video a while ago talking about why I dislike the 5090 and just my problems with it. And what it comes down to is that the 5090 has very poor power distribution and no fuses on the card. So when you put those two things together, it's kind of like a ticking time bomb, and it costs a lot of money. So I don't want to sell somebody a computer with a 5090 and then 2-3 years later they come back to me and are like, why isn't it working? Why is the connector melting? I don't want to sell something that's going to be garbage at some point. So I've really capped off the builds on my site at a 5080, which for the average consumer I think is more than enough. So I think that's really where things are. The average person wants something that can game in 4K that doesn't break the bank, and the most that they're willing to spend is somewhere in the region of like $2,000 to $2,800. And I think that it's doable to offer people computers like that, but due to pricing instability, it's hard to offer that safely, in a way that's sustainable over a long term. So these are just kind of things that are challenging, and I'm trying to find ways to address it. And other than that, I've been looking into maybe offering kits on my website for people who want to try to build their own computers. I've built computers with people, and it's very interesting watching someone build something for the first time, because when you've done it, a couple hundred times, it kind of starts to feel second nature. And it's not that building a computer is an impossible thing. It's just that, for people who don't have a lot of experience building things, or maybe, it's their first time doing something with expensive parts, you can feel a little apprehensively about it. And what I realized is that for a lot of people, there is the feeling that it's too expensive to risk doing something incorrectly, which I totally understand. I take my car to the mechanic. I'm not a mechanic. I don't have the tools to fix my car, although I do have, things to replace a tire. And some people view their computer that way, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I do wonder if I could offer something to people, just so that way, if they wanted to build a computer, if they were interested in the builds I was doing, that was just an alternative way to generate revenue and keep the site running, because I would love to offer some additional things. I was thinking about offering graphics card stickers with our logo on it, if anybody wants to replace their graphics card stickers. Maybe a couple of other little things. I know some sites offer mouse pads, but my thing with mouse pads is that I hate rubber mouse pads. I really do not like them. They end up in the trash within like a year for me. The mouse pad that I use is, please don't judge me for this, it's dirty. This is a Logitech plastic mouse pad, and this thing is indestructible. I think that plastic mouse pads are far and away just the best. And I don't want to sell something that's going to end up in the trash, I think is really what it comes down to. We have enough e-waste. There's enough garbage in the world. So I'm very carefully considering what it is that I could offer people that I myself would get behind. And if I come to a conclusion, I'll start offering it slowly. So that's been more or less what I've been up to. I have a bunch of photos that I'm in the process of uploading to the site, and maybe a couple small projects I'm considering doing. But yeah, so there's been some recent developments, some builds, some fun stuff, and I just wanted to take a little bit of time to share that with you guys. I'm sorry that I haven't been as consistent with my build of the month. Truthfully, the reason I haven't done a build of the month is because nothing's really changed. Everything's more or less the same. The 9070 came out and it's wonderful. I've used it in 2 builds at this point, and both of the people who've received it love it. So that's just about it. The 9060 XT also came out, and the 16 gigabyte model is very cool. For what it costs, I think it's about $350. It is an awesome graphics card that will probably age well. So, you know, if you're in the market for a graphics card, maybe check that out. And that really just about covers it. Stay tuned. I'm always doing fun stuff. And when it makes sense, I will update the builds of the month and a couple of other things. And just give you guys some ideas about maybe fun builds that would make sense at the time. So thank you so much for sticking it through the video, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.